Hi, I'm John Cerruto, and welcome to the special on the Summit Foundation. I'm joined with Dana Turk and Jim Fleischman from the foundation, and welcome.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Yes, we are.
Dana, the foundation, when did it start? What was its mission? And where does it stand now?
So the Summit Foundation started back in 1972, and it was originally known as the Summit Area Public Foundation, and it was started by a group of dedicated residents of Summit who wanted to build something lasting to support the nonprofits and various agencies in the community. And the original mission was to promote and encourage the well-being of the Summit area and its residents. And 52 years later, we are still true to that mission. Our mission now is to foster philanthropy, to address local needs, to improve lives in the Summit, New Jersey area, and offer people flexible ways to make a difference.
So, Jim, 52 years, that's a long time for this foundation to be established and still existing. What type of changes took place over that 52-year period?
Well, in terms of numbers, the beginning was, the dollar amount was relatively small. And by the year 1990, when Jack Cooper took over as the president, we had roughly $1 million in assets in the foundation. From 1990 until 2024, the assets grew, and in that interim, we've given out substantial amounts of money in addition to growing the foundation.
Dana, as president of the foundation, funding, where did funding come from originally, and where's it coming from now?
So funding originally came from individual donations primarily, but the way we truly grew were some sizable bequests about 25 years ago. Jack Cooper professionally is a local trust and estates attorney, and also had a lot of connections within the community, and would talk to people about how do you leave a legacy that's going to continue to add value and to perpetuate terrific programs and services led primarily by nonprofits here. And that came from bequests in people's wills. And some of those were dedicated to specific causes, whether they're medical and health concerns. We have a sizable fund that benefits children that require special medical treatment or education. And that's allowed us to sort of expand just beyond the Summit area. But we've also had a family of G. Morrison Hubbard left a sizable contribution that was going to be dedicated to capital improvements in Summit Public Schools. And that generated grants for 25 years. But we also reach out to the public because much of what we do does not have a specific interest. It's sort of unrestricted and allows us to focus on areas that benefit all sectors of the public.
All right, well, let's talk about some of those sectors. Jim, where are some of those grants going locally that are helping out in the city of Summit and the surrounding area?
Well, if you drive around Summit, the Summit Foundation has probably helped most of the nonprofits. Overlook Hospital, the Y, SAGE, the Visual Arts, the Park Line. It goes on and on. We could spend the next 5 minutes and I could keep naming them. But we also, when we were originally founded, we were called the Summit Area Public Foundation. We changed our name a few years ago to the Summit Foundation. But a lot of the grants go to areas primarily in Union County. So wherever there is a need, we will potentially be able to assist.
Dana, some of the organizations Jim just mentioned, maybe you can kind of expand on it. What does SAGE do? And some of the other ones that he had mentioned.
So SAGE offers, one of the most unique features of SAGE is they offer an adult medical day center here so that older adults can go to the facility right here in Summit and spend the day with medical staff, but also engaging in games and various activities. It gives their family members a bit of a break of care. It allows them to enjoy the day. They also offer Meals on Wheels. They take government assistance. They rely on grants and donations, but also Medicaid. And it allows older adults to remain independent in their homes in places of comfort. And this is very unique for a city of 22,000 people to have this facility right here.
Why don't you both share an anecdotal story of an impact that you have seen through some of these grants that might have moved you a bit?
One of the grants that really stands out to me is to a preschool in Plainfield, New Jersey. And they requested a grant of $10,000 for a social worker. They were experiencing an unusually high amount of disruption in the classroom for these 2, 3, 4-year-old kids. And they traced it back to COVID. Children born in 2018, 19, 20 were essentially isolated as they were growing up. And in 2020, 22, 23, when they began to get back into the preschool process, some of these kids were simply incapable of dealing with all the other children around them. And so the disruption was so prevalent that they felt, the people running this preschool, that they needed to deal with it because these kinds of learning impediments are going to stay with the child for the rest of their life. And it could negatively impact them in elementary school, high school. The consequences are really substantial and could be very significant, negatively significant. And so ultimately, we thought that this was a very good use. A relatively small amount of money paid now could prevent a huge amount of dislocation for a lot of these kids in the future.
Fantastic, fantastic. Dana, I know you have one or two.
Reeves Reed Arboretum, we just gave a kickoff grant to them because they are doing all kinds of renovations so that anybody with any kind of disability can be dropped off and pretty much access the Arboretum and get to their amphitheater. And it's been a huge initiative, and so much of what we do is making sure that everybody has access to these tremendous resources that we have in our city. I once attended Literacy New Jersey classes, which are adult literacy classes that are run completely by volunteers at Summit High School, and people of all languages are coming in the evening after work so that they can understand English and speak and learn. That's a great thing to witness. There are just so many, there's such a range of initiatives, and on our website, we're very transparent about all of our grants, and we show their impact and how broadly based it is.
And we always get more requests for grants than we have money available to distribute. So there's a rigorous vetting process that goes on within the grants committee, which is comprised of about half the board members. And I can assure anybody who's watching this, I think we are very efficient in how we allocate the limited resources that we have. So the dollars invariably go to where they're needed the most.
So they're well thought out and they're
Absolutely.
really targeted with purpose. We're going to have an opportunity to talk to that grant committee or some of the members of the grant committee later on, and scholarship committee, which you do quite a bit of. But you know, you had also talked about the people who are involved in making those decisions. And Dana, you have a series of trustees. What type of makeup are the trustees? Are they people from Summit? Are they at a Summit? All different levels of life?
So our Board of Trustees, we have 21 people, all residing in Summit. We are an all-volunteer operating board, so we have no salaried staff. So as board members, we are implementing policy, strategy, but we're also in the operations as well. The range, I mean, one of our values is to have a range of diverse perspectives and backgrounds. And I think that one of the things that I think is terrific about this board particularly is we have very open discourse. We come together, people have different opinions, but we make decisions collectively.
You know, you mentioned Jack Cooper a couple times, and before, we move on to the grant committee, let's talk about Jack Cooper. He's a real staple to this community. He's an elder statesman, but there's a real respect. Tell us some things that he has done with this organization over the years.
Jack Cooper is one of the most dignified, generous of heart, upstanding people I've known. He has been so central to many of these resources that people enjoy today as a founding member of the Volunteer First Aid Squad. He was part of a group responsible for keeping Reeves Reed Arboretum as a beloved 13-acre space, public space, versus having it converted into residence and things like that. He has a way of engendering trust, for lack of a better word, and a way of bringing people together. He is the master of building a team and making you feel that you are doing good from the inside. And he is still as involved as he can be. He is our trustee emeritus, the only one.
Yep.
And we always go to him for advice about things that happened in the past and also things that are happening now, because he has a great way of seeing things for what they are and seeing the good.
He's got the Summit Foundation's DNA.
And before we move forward to meet the grant committee and scholarship committee individuals, is there anything else you would like to tell the public about the Summit Foundation before we come back and conclude?
John, one of the things the Summit Foundation is able to do is to sort of step in when there's a overall crisis brewing. And in 2020, during the pandemic and our downtown was virtually shut down, we initiated a $50,000 matching grant to provide grants to local businesses that were suffering. We made that grant to Summit Downtown, and through our matching proposal, almost 300 different residents from Summit raised $350,000 to support our local businesses. On the back of that, 2 anonymous donors came forward and said they would match $350,000 additional, which provided working capital to local businesses. There was a grants committee that was set up, and it really helped, I think, our local business owners get through a very difficult time. And they then felt to pay it forward and give back to us to turn around and support many of the local nonprofits and scholarship programs that we have been building upon for many decades. So that was a great example of it takes a village. And when I started out and talked about our mission of fostering philanthropic giving, because that is really what we do, philanthropists come in all sizes. It could be family philanthropy. It could be an everyday person with an interesting idea, where somebody sees a need that other people don't yet, and they can come to us. It can be corporations that want to give back. We never know what inspires people to give, but we know that good ideas generate better ideas. And one of our taglines is, "We're here for good." And that really impels us, I think, to continue to do the work that we're doing and to connect with with those who want to make a lasting difference here.
And that is a real great example of community at its best. So why don't we move forward? Why don't we meet with the grant committee individuals and the scholarship individuals, and we'll come back and conclude. So we are joined with the co-chairs of the grant committee for the Summit Foundation, Leah Griffith and Catherine Kalin, and the grants, very important part of the Summit Foundation. Tell us something about the grants themselves.
So we operate in the town of Summit, as you know, and we're really fortunate because we have a really robust nonprofit community, or nonprofit community that really responds to the community needs. So through our grant making process, we really try to respond to community needs, and in general, that falls into categories including arts and culture, civic and community, health and medical, disabilities, seniors, and food insecurity. That's generally where our grants, end up being. But we importantly respond to community needs.
Okay, so I'm somebody out there in an organization that is in need. So Catherine, how do I go about? What's the application process like?
So typically we receive applications from organizations, 501c3s. And actually, it's a very interesting question that you asked that, because we're actually going through a transition right now. So it used to be that you send us an email. You probably find on our website where the application form is, and you attach all these forms and attachments. We actually have just switched to a completely online process where you go through the new Summit Foundation portal. And through that, it's a completely electronic process where it walks you through step by step. We are focused very much on Summit, and we're looking for organizations that are really going to do good in our community, in the Summit community at large. That said, there are organizations that also operate outside Summit, and we have a number of donor-directed funds that allow us to look a little bit beyond Summit, particularly if that need isn't specific. But we're looking for organizations that are doing good. We're looking for organizations that are contributing to the wellness, the health, the ability of our community to thrive. And we're looking for organizations that can produce the kind of impact on those different constituents that have helped the community thrive.
Well, let me ask you this, Leah. Speaking of impact in the community, give us an example of some of those grants and what they have done.
Great. So it's hard to, I'll start off with an organization that impacts all of us in our community, which is the Summit Volunteer First Aid Society. Everyone at one time or another may or may not need to, have the emergency responders arrive at their doorstep. It impacts everybody in this community. It makes our entire community safer. So we really are proud of, our commitment to the rescue squad.
You're probably aware that Summit's looking right now to raise money, the City of Summit, to raise money for the renovation of the Mabee Playground. And this will be Summit's first ever fully accessible, intergenerational sensory playground, and it will cater to every single constituent, regardless of age, regardless of physical disabilities of any kind. And it was actually a joy evaluating this opportunity, because the equipment that is planned to be in the park, for example, there's a zip line, and specifically that just called out to us in droves, where even children with disabilities can actually be strapped into this zip line and do a zip line across the park. And that's the kind of grant that we look for, something that's right at the heart of Summit, that's really going to impact everybody in the community and that really helps our community thrive. So that's another great example. Something else that's very Summit-centric is the Summit Public Schools. A couple of years ago, we actually contributed to a new sound system in the auditorium at Summit High School. As you probably know, they did a massive renovation of the auditorium, and one aspect of it had been malfunctioning. And so we actually made a grant to the Summit Public Schools so that the high school could get a better sound system. Now, not everything is big grants. And as we both mentioned, sometimes we go outside Summit. There have been some smaller grants, but great things that we do for seniors. A couple of things come to mind. The Wharton Institute for the Performing Arts has a cafe choir program where they gather seniors together. They can teach them music, they can teach them to sing, they bring them instruments and so on. It's completely free for anyone 55 and older. And at the end of it, they actually have a performance at the Wharton Institute for all these seniors who've come together. Great way to stop them feeling isolated, to engage them in groups. New Jersey Festival Orchestra, free tickets to performances. Those, again, some of the smaller grants that we have.
Yeah, another one I'd love to mention is the YMCA. You know, again, the heart of one of the organizations at the heart of our town, and a community need is really high quality childcare. So we work with them to they wanted to update some of their facility that uses the daycare for young children in our community, and we're really happy to be able to support something like that. Provide, you know, really meets a community need. Continues providing high quality, you know, daycare for children.
Well, as far as grants, and is it a rolling admissions to acceptance for these grants, or is it a cycle of some kind?
So we have two cycles. We have a spring cycle for which the deadline for application is April 1st, and we have a fall cycle for which the deadline is October 1st.
Leah, historically, what is the range as far as the number of grants per cycle that you do issue out?
So it varies by cycle, but we've been really on the rise in terms of our the numbers of applications we've received. But it's about 30 grants that we, to 30 different organizations per cycle that we grant to. And, you know, we receive more applications than that. So not, you know, it is a competitive process, but we really just try to stick to, you know, our granting guidelines. We have a pretty rigorous process where we have a grants committee. We try to have everyone go out and actually visit the site that, you know, and to understand the program really well. We really look at, you know, how the organization is run, how they, what their board looks like, what their management processes are. We really try to understand how they're going to use the funds. So. And it's been a process that's been in place for a long time, and it's worked out well.
And as far as grants, general public contributions, we know that there are other people that have bequeathed the parts of their will to the Summit Foundation. What are some of the resources that you get as far as funding?
So clearly there are a number of families in the past that have committed funds to the Summit Foundation, and those we continue to invest over time, and they grow our resources. But we also do an outreach campaign every year to the City of Summit in lots of different ways. We send a letter out with a note sharing some of the grants that we've made and asking people if they want to help be a part of the contributions that go out to the community. So there are lots of different ways that money comes in, but a lot of it is individuals, residents in Summit, digging into their pocket with their generosity, and they want to see the community thrive in the way that it is, and they want to reinvest back into the community. So we provide a means for them to do that, whether that's a new family coming in town who just wants to be more involved in the community, whether it's somebody perhaps who's lived here many years but wants to leave a legacy over time. That too, we welcome all contributors, but again with very much a Summit focus.
Leah, any closing comments before we go on and meet the scholarship committee?
So I would just add that I think having, you know, how very fortunate we are. I always say we stand on, you know, the backs of those before us who really, you know, set aside these funds and pulled their funds together. And I think we can learn a lot from them at what an incredible asset this is to our town, and how we've been able to, through the foundation, really move organizations forward on special projects to meet really gaps that otherwise wouldn't have been met. And it's something we're really, you know, proud of.
Well, you're doing a great job and you serve a great purpose, and thank you very much for joining us today. Well, we're now joined with Chuck Gelber and Martha Sayer from the Scholarship Committee of the Summit Foundation. And Chuck, you know, what an exciting component of the foundation. Give us a little background in where you are right now with the scholarship programs.
Well, I've been with the Scholarship Committee since 2020, so it's been the last 4 years. There's been remarkable growth. I don't want to take credit for all the growth. I mean, there were a lot of people that have been donating and starting new scholarships. And last year, we actually were able to give away $150,000 worth of scholarships to over 50 students. And it was great. And we're excited, and we hope to grow more. We manage a number of scholarships, and these scholarships are mainly for Summit High School seniors. But there are some that go to places as far away as North Bergen, Trinidad Hospital. We have a nursing scholarship there. Some scholarships are available to New Providence students and Kent Place students. So it's become quite robust and exciting.
Martha, the process, how does somebody apply for a scholarship? Who qualifies for these scholarships?
Each scholarship has its own sort of criteria. Most of the scholarships are on need-based, but not all of them are need-based. They go through the Summit Guidance Department, most of them, and they have to put in, a senior would put in an application in February, and it goes through something called Going Merry, and the high school really runs it all. They get all the applications by the end of March, and then we get, as a committee, to review all the applicants and choose based on the criteria that's been set for that specific scholarship. And then the scholarships are pretty much awarded in June for the students. However, we decided for a couple of the scholarships where it really will make a financial difference for the student applying to, making a choice of a school, for May 1st. And so we do offer, and we do award some in May, just so that they can include them in their decision making.
Chuck referenced 50 scholarships last year. Now, are all of
50
the
recipients, not
50 recipients.
There were multiple recipients
Okay.
for certain
That's
scholarships.
good
so, yeah.
clarification. Done on academic merit only?
No, absolutely not. Some of them are done on sort of, we have one scholarship called the Perseverance Scholarship, and that really is for students who might have a BC average, but they've really overcome something. They may have had to look after a younger sibling. They may have had a medical issue. And so with the guidance department, we sort of get a group of candidates that they feel are valuable for that. And we then, as a committee, go through them and pick a couple students. We decided a few years ago to make it a 4-year scholarship, so you don't just get the money for the first year, you get it for all 4 years. I was working with one student who had some medical issues, sort of was a BC student. He's now a senior at NJIT, going for his 5th year with an architectural degree. So it really did turn this kid's life around and help turn this kid's life
That's
around.
very rewarding, I
Yeah.
am sure. Chuck, funding for these programs, where do they come from?
Some of them have individuals that donate their money, have their own scholarships set up that we manage and work in conjunction with them. There's a pot of money from the Summit Foundation itself that is for the Summit Award for Perseverance. 2 years ago, we were approached by 2 brothers whose mother was an educator, and they wanted to do something in her honor. So with us, they were able to establish a scholarship called the Martha Gordon Santucci Scholarship, which obviously was the mother's name. She was an educator at Kent Place, so this is a scholarship available to Kent Place students as well as Summit High School students. And it's for those, it's need-based, but for those as well who want to go into the education. And it was really rewarding. I mean, the 2 brothers were very excited, and they felt like they did something wonderful for their mother's memory. And when we looked at the applicants, we could not, along with them, they could not decide on just one. They were intending to just have one, so we gave it to 2. And now it's there are now 4 people who have received that scholarship, and they're going to great schools and able to do quite well. So I would encourage anybody out there to start their own scholarship, contact us. We're happy to do that. It's a great way to honor somebody.
You know, Martha, you were saying once that not all these scholarships are academic based. There are other components to it.
We really like to look at the whole student on a lot of these scholarships. One of the scholarships we created in the last 4 years is called the Elevating Summit Students. And that came about from a gentleman who came to my house, actually, and wanted to have more students up there on the DS when they go to the event in June, and have more students getting scholarships. So he asked to start a scholarship. He started Elevating Summit Students, which is really for students with financial need, academically strong, but not necessarily the strongest, community service, involvement in the school, mostly in clubs, and someone who really has a drive to succeed. We talked about it a lot. We decided to make it a 4-year scholarship. And after he started the scholarship, he didn't want it in his name. Some other donors came up and said they wanted to join that scholarship. So that's another way people can actually join our scholarship drive by saying, you know what, I'd like to contribute to the Elevating Summit students. I'd like to contribute specifically to the Perseverance Scholarship. So there are other ways that people, besides just creating a new scholarship, can get involved. But yes, we definitely look at the whole student.
That's great. So Chuck Gelber and Martha Sayer, why don't we hear a couple testimonies from these students right now?
Hi, it's April. I'm currently a junior, or going to be a junior this upcoming semester, and I'm a sociology major and a business minor. It's thanks to this scholarship that, I'm able to be in school and explore new options that maybe I wouldn't have been able to before. As for my future goals, I think I would like to go into HR, specifically recruitment, but I am open to exploring different fields. I'm currently doing an internship. I love talking to people and I am very outgoing, so I didn't know how I would feel about working in a desk setting, but I actually really enjoy it, and I love the, change in scenario, so thank you for that. And yes, life is going really good right now, and I'm excited for this new semester.
So we just heard from April Sanchez, who's a student that I know really well. She's amazing. She goes to Gettysburg College, where she would not have been able to go without our scholarship. She got the Elevating Summit Student Scholarship, which is over 4 years. She also contacts me constantly to just ask questions. And this year, she actually got an internship in human resources, which is something she really wanted to do. So it's super exciting to see someone like April really blossom. And it really was because of the scholarship that she was able to go. Interestingly, her brother also worked with us and was able to get another scholarship, and he's also at Gettysburg this year. So there's been a really compound experience with both of them.
Great stuff. If somebody, again, I know we've talked about it before, but if somebody would like to get involved.
Well, John, I've told that, scholarships are great for the recipients. It helps them go through college. It helps them achieve what they want to achieve. And, I had 4 kids go to college, and it was great for them, obviously, and we take it for granted, a lot of us in Summit. And these kids that often receive these scholarships, if without them, they wouldn't go to college. So it's so important, but also the ones who give the scholarship get a lot out of it. And those that donate and then see what happens to these children, or the Santucci brothers, for example, it's so rewarding for the donors as well. So it's a win-win. And if anybody wants to get involved, they could contact us. They can go on the website. They could email us at scholarships@summitforever.org. And we're happy to help you. That's what we're here for.
Well, I commend you and the organization for the great work that you do, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jim Fleischman and Dana Turk, it is very impressive to see what the grant committee has done. It's very impressive to see the scholarships. Wow, big part of the organization.
Well, Summit is a great place to live. We have wonderful schools. We're safe. We have a fine police department. We have an outstanding fire department. We have wonderful infrastructure. And everybody who lives here benefits from it. And for those who may be thinking, maybe I can put a little bit back in, we're an avenue for that potential.
Yes, to give you an idea, in the past 10 years, we've given 375 individual grants to over 100 local organizations. So it gives you an idea of the breadth of our nonprofit sector here in the Summit area, and the breadth of programs and services. We really try to reach everybody in our area, and hope to continue to do so for quite some time.
Well, I will certainly tell you this, Jim Fleischman and Dana Turk, from 1972 to where we are today, the Summit Foundation has impacted so many different organizations and lives in this community and beyond. It is the best of what our society is to be, and I can't thank you enough for joining us today.
None of this would have been possible without the incredible generosity of the citizenry of Summit. They're the ones who have funded this organization, and they're the ones that will keep it going. So to them, we say thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for having
having
us.
us.
Thank you for joining us on this special edition of the Summit Foundation.